This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter.
At Pepe Sayer, we focus on quality. So if someone comes into your restaurant and they see you're using Pepe Sayer, they know immediately that that is a quality product you've got in front of you on the table. And that comes from a decade of just doing quality butter day after day.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
At the end of the day, you're never going to make every single person happy, but you do your best, you really push for it. Like, it's kind of that aim for the moon, land amongst the stars kind of thing. Like, as long as you know you're doing your best, and that's what I try to drill in to all the guys here. Like, as long as you're confident in it, as long as you've done your best with it, like, that's all you can really ask of people.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. We've talked a few times about the boom of pubs with great food offerings. Some chefs make a career out of carving a new path in the pub space to raise the bar in different suburbs of major cities and also regions of the country too. But how do you strike that balance of being the hub for the locals and a great meal out as well? Stephen Scott is the head chef of the Lucky Hotel in Newcastle, New South Wales. Stephen, how are you?
Good, thanks, Huck. Yourself?
I'm good. Your career is scattered with an array of gastro pubs. It's been a real feature of your career. What triggered that sort of direction for you?
I was classically trained and restaurant trained, and growing up around that time, it was very clear, stay away from pubs. When I first hit London, I found myself working with Ramsay's at the Warrington in Maida Vale, and that was his pub. It was absolutely beautiful. We still had that solid pub offering downstairs, but really nice dining room upstairs, and it just kind of gave me a little, I guess, a taste of what it can be. Like, it doesn't have to be confined to just this kind of counter meal. Yeah, that kind of classic. I mean, look, everyone's reinventing it now. It's nostalgic. It's not a dirty word anymore. But I guess it just kind of made me realise it's only limited by your imagination, I guess. So I guess that sounds a bit romantic, but yeah.
These days you're in Newcastle with the Lucky Hotel. What's it like sort of taking food to a new level in a city like Newcastle after, working in London and Sydney and that sort of world that we'll get into soon?
It's absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, the best thing about it is I'm not doing it on my own. There's so many great chefs up here. Like, it's like an absolute, don't get me wrong, there was fantastic chefs here when I grew up here and before I left, but it's like there's this whole new wave of just good, honest cooking, and it's really fantastic. And it's almost like the days of competition are over. It's now a collaborative effort. So it's like you've got all these chefs kind of working to kind of put the place on the map, and yeah, it's good. It's good to see, like, a bit of hometown pride, I guess.
You mentioned that you grew up in Newcastle. Take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play in your family?
Look, to be honest, it was a pretty simple, we're a working class family. Food was, always good, but it was very, meat and 3 veg. It wasn't anything super, we weren't reinventing the wheel or anything like that. It's kind of, as I got a bit older and, I was kind of getting ready to move out of home, and Mum was like, well, this guy needs to be able to feed himself. I'm going to start cooking him. And yeah, like a lot of people around that time, you kind of learn to make one good bolognese and you think you're the world's best chef. And yeah, from that, it kind of really, that's where I developed an interest in it, and being able to kind of, just play around, experiment with things. That's when I started to think, okay, this could be a good career. This could be something I'm really excited for. If I could get paid for this, that would be unreal. And the more people I spoke to, I kind of guess the more people told me that's a really bad idea and a really hard job. And when I started it, I kind of took that on board, had a crack at uni. I guess that's a very generous term, but I kind of turned up, a couple of good parties, and I thought, yeah, this isn't for me. Yeah, I thought I'd give it a go, and spent the first kind of 6 months thinking, I really should have listened to those people, but I stuck it out, and very thankfully I had a really great head chef who I started working for and followed him for my apprenticeship. I honestly say if I hadn't have met him and worked for him, I wouldn't be where I am now. He's the guy that kind of set me up, taught me, really showed me what food can be. Like, yeah, I was very lucky in that.
Tell us a bit about him, and do you have any stories of the influence?
Definitely a lot of stories. I'm not sure how many of those stories are safe for most people's ears, but no, he's like Michelin trained. His name's Bart Connors, and I first worked for him at a seafood restaurant here, and then he went to open his own kind of cafe by day, restaurant by night, and it was unreal. We made everything from scratch in-house. There was you would never just be shown a recipe. It was always, this is why you're doing it like this. This is how it works. Like, there was nothing but a complete understanding given to you of like why you're doing what you're doing. And just those real kind of, he was Michelin trained, work all through Europe. And yeah, just the food he would put out. I remember the first thing he taught me to make was this. It's like a classic torte caprese, like an Italian chocolate cake, but just the way he did it. And it was like you would cook half of it and then put the other half on top as like a fondant. And it just was like, anyone who's worked for him or tasted his food knows this cake. And like, it just changed everything. It was like, this is what I want to be doing. This is really solidifying, like, for me, what cooking is all about.
Bart helped you cement that idea of a career in hospitality. What was the sort of stepping stones for you before you went to London?
So it was it felt like a very long and a very tough apprenticeship. I think at the end of that, I just needed a bit of a break. I went to Sydney, kind of, I guess, took a back seat for a bit. It was just kind of working as a chef de partie, which what I thought was going to be a bit of a casual job. It ended up being a really great job. I met a lot of good friends there. Just really loved kind of being in the big smoke, being out of home, kind of just being in this new situation. And part of like what he'd trained me was like, this is great and this is your hometown, but you want to be able to get out. You want to see the world. You want to experience everything else. Then you'll appreciate what you have, I guess, is the best way to say it. And yeah, it kind of just gave me that taste for it. Like it was, it was get to Sydney, learn what I could, meet some good people. And then, it got to the point I was had kept talking about it for so long, going overseas, working London. I thought, you know what, time to put my money where my mouth is, and just, threw myself into it.
Tell us about, when you arrived in London, were you surprised at how different it was? And how did you get yourself into the industry there?
So definitely surprised by how different it was. And I thought I knew cold. If you're going to move there, don't move there at like the back end of January, start of February, because for a young bloke that loves the beach, it's a little bit different. But I guess, look, to be honest, I was shitting myself, and I thought I'd ended up like looking for jobs. I saw that they were hiring for Ramsay's. I thought, well, I'm never going to get in there, but I at least want to, I want to apply for it. I want to at least get a trial and just kind of see where I am and what it's like, and kind of see that side of things. And there was the head chef there at the Warrington was another Aussie guy, Chris Arkadiev, another really great mentor of mine. And we kind of clicked, and he understood where I'd come from. He was a really great mentor to have stepping into that new world. Like, it's just all the little things. Like, I remember doing the ordering, and like, I remember 3 days in a row ordering Spanish onions. They kept sending brown onions. And I remember telling him, I'm like, I don't know what's going wrong here. And he's like, look at the bag. And I was like, oh, they're onions from Spain. Kind of just things like that. Like, he knew like what I was trying to communicate. Like, it is a very different language over there sometimes, but like, just, he was able to kind of guide me, and he was a very good mentor for my years over in London and through Ramsay's.
Ramsay's known the world over, and there's been a lot of chefs have gone through his kitchen and a lot of perceptions about him. But tell us about your experiences and what you took from your time in the kitchens of his restaurants.
They were really good and completely different. And there was this constant kind of like, I guess, respect and awe, not just not so much, well, definitely for him, but you'd work a section and you'd think about the chefs that were there before you. You'd think about the chefs that had gone through those doors and just the kind of the pedigree that had come out of it. And yeah, he was like, when you would see him, like when he'd come in for dinners or just come in to see what's going on, like he's definitely like, he's a fantastic chef, and he is like, he'll come over and try something you're making, and no matter how complicated the dish is, he'll know exactly what's in it. He'll say like, you should try putting this or a bit more of this or a bit less of that. Like the guy is like a robot, just programmed with ingredients and recipes and ideas. And it's really great. It's always like constructive feedback. I'm not saying what you see on the TV is like wrong, but it's like kind of edited and it's made to look a bit different to how it is when you're there, I guess.
Tell me a bit about the chef that you were before you went to London and the chef that returned to Australia. How different were you as a person and as a chef?
It was definitely very much that kind of laid-back Aussie surfy chef, you know, like, let's get through service, have some beers, get to the beach tomorrow before work. And then working in those restaurants in London, just kind of like, you just get more serious about it, and you just understand it's about more than what you're putting on the plate. It's how you show up. It's how you be present. It's how you be there and, yeah, communicate yourself, present yourself kind of. Yeah, I guess you realise that you are putting it in another league.
You mentioned that the seed was sown in that time in London about sort of gastro pubs and that push that you've done since then in pubs. Tell us about sort of that seed that was sown and like, were you mindful that that was the direction you really wanted to go in, or tell us a bit about that?
I definitely didn't realise it at the time. And then as I went from there, they'd eventually sold the Warrington and I went to Claridge's, which was like, that was a great dream of mine, and to be able to work in that kitchen was unreal. And yeah, I was there for a couple of months, and then the exec chef at the time, an opportunity had come up at May's Grill. He came and spoke to me. He was like, man, I think you'd be really great for it. Stepped away from that to go to the grill, and that was one of the best decisions of my life. Like it was hard and they were busy days, but that was like my first taste of like open fire cooking. We would get whole cows in, kind of break them down by hand rather than just ordering in primal cuts, things like that. Like it was unreal. And for me, I'd always been trained kind of seafood, you know, the classic kind of intricate dishes. That's where I learned to really respect meat and to be able to like, it's not just a steak, it's like a really nice, you know, the provenance of it, like what your breeds are. Like our menu would be, you know, where the cows were from. You would have, you know, your Angus, Hereford, your Creekstone from America, your Wagyu, your Kobe, and just kind of understanding them, like why, how they worked, how the muscles connected. Like, I don't think you truly get that until you see the whole thing, until you see the whole picture. And yeah, it was great. And I kind of didn't realize it at the time. All those things were kind of like leading to, I guess, why can't we do this in a pub style setting? Like, which for me just kind of like, I love restaurants, but I feel pubs for everyone. Like you can take your family there, you can take your partner there, you can go there for your first date, you can go there anniversary. It's like you can drop in with your mates. It's just more open and more people are able to come and taste those things and experience those sorts of meals.
Tell us about coming back to Australia. Where did you land and where did the opportunities open up?
I wanted to go back to Sydney. So got back in. I thought I'd be, it's funny you asked about how that changed me as a chef. I thought I'd go back for a little bit, back to the old Steve, you know, just get a cafe job, do some bacon egg rolls and spend my days at the beach. And I was like getting just so itchy feet. I was just like, I feel like I'm just wasting my time. I need to get back into it. And then, yeah, started looking. The opportunity came up to work with Matt Kemp with the Charing Cross Hotel. And it was exactly what I was after. Like it was the Warrington all over again. It was beautiful pub side of things and having this really nice dining room. And I'd never met Matt before. I'd eaten his food plenty of times at Balzac. I thought this is fantastic. And yeah, the opportunity to work with him and learn from him, it was like the missing piece, I guess. It was able to just like that guy, he's like, what we're doing there, I guess the idea was simple, but like it's really pushing like how complex simple can be. Like it looks like, just a basic offering, basic meal. When it hits you on the plate, it's like it's just perfect. Like the things he would do, the techniques he would show you, it was unreal. You're always learning, so you're never at the end, but it really like just rounded off my journey of like everything kind of felt like it had come to that.
Matt Kemp is known for a real ability to do nose to tail to the nth degree. Is there any sort of techniques or dishes or moments of time from the Charing Cross Hotel that you can tell us about that sort of epitomise that approach that he had?
I love and God, we used to make absolutely thousands of these. I think he's pig's head croquette. And it's like we take a whole pig's head, braise it down, pick the meat, mix the fat through, reduce Madeira, stock, create a master stock, mix it all together, press it. It's taking something that like pretty much most steps of the way just looks so ugly and like, but the end result is just like, it's just pure flavor and it's just pure, like you can taste the love that's gone into it. You can taste the work that's gone into it. Like I guess that really kind of sums it up. And it seems so simple, but the steps that go into it, the love and care that goes into it, it just really brings it out. I don't need to say about his bread and butter pudding. Everyone knows about his bread and butter pudding. And I've rung him many a time and said, look, I'm working here. Can I put your bread and butter pudding on? And he's like, yeah, of course you can. Go for it. It's just, yeah, no, he was great. Very fond memories working with him, and he was a very, very instrumental in my career.
You made a move to work with another Matt Moran, when he took over the Paddington Inn. How did that gig come about, and what was that like? So, he was a regular at the Charing Cross, and I'd always kind of spoken to him, and it was always like it sparked an interest there, and it was like, God, like I'd love to, when I feel like I've ticked my boxes here, like I'd love to kind of, I guess, kind of test the waters again, kind of see what more I can do. And it kind of got to a point where I was like, I was feeling like I had ticked my boxes, and they had just completely changed around the Paddo Inn to like the bar and grill, very in line with like what I'd fell in love with working at Maze Grill, sorry. And I just kind of, that advertised, I went and had a look, had a chat with Laura Barato. She's an absolute fantastic chef. And was just kind of like, this is really for me. And working for that company was fantastic. They were very like chef driven, and they were very on the front foot with like making the industry a better place, like making a better, they're very culture based. And it was like, they kind of understood like we need to start looking after people if we want, if the industry is going to survive, like we've got to do something about it. Tell us a bit about what you did at the Paddo Inn. I mean, I still remember the meal that I had there and still tell people about it. It was one of the best meals I've had in a pub in Australia. Well, is there any dish or dishes you can tell us about with what you were doing there?
I love that. I think you might be talking about I think you had the pork that night. And it was this beautiful, like, nice Borrowdale pork cutlet, brined. There's a nice bit of grilled cabbage, but everything was, it was perfect produce on the meat side, perfect produce on the veg side. Like it was a nice sugarloaf cabbage, which I hadn't seen anyone using since London. And it was just like nicely seasoned, nicely grilled. It was like, let's not complicate things, but it's got to be good. It's like, and just a nice shoe. And it was kind of, what more do you need than that? It is like, when you write it down, it just kind of sounds like meat and 3 veg, meat and 1 veg in that case. But it's kind of, if you can do that as a dish, and that's the feedback you're getting from people, like that's where it's at. The kind of, the noise is all gone from it. It's all blocked out. You literally put yourself on a plate. There's nothing to hide behind. And I think it's a very strong position to be in. in a very confident position to be in.
Were there challenges in pushing the realms with pub food in Australia? You know, England is renowned for its gastropubs, but you know that the last sort of 5 to 10 years, there's been an incredible evolution. But were there challenges for you translating that to the consumers? Yeah,
definitely. I think like you have to go easy with it. You can't completely change everything overnight. Like you still need those classics on there. Otherwise you're going to scare people off. Now I'll freely admit, like I've learnt that the hard way. Like I've gone all in and thought, yeah, this is it. I'm all guns blazing here. And it's just kind of, you need to build up that trust with people. You need to do the basics well, then to start to introduce those things. So it is like, it's challenging in the sense that, yeah, you kind of have to have a very long-term plans. Like you need to be able to go, okay, well, this is what phase 1 looks like. This is phase 2. This is where we start to bring this in. This is where we can get to. Now, all of a sudden, you're coming into a pub on a Friday night and you're asking for the tasting menu, but you can't start there. You need to get there. And yeah, by the time you do it, it's great because you feel the reward of like all the work you put through. And it does teach you patience. It does teach you to kind of, I guess it helps you to take everyone else along on the way as well.
What led to the move to return to your hometown in Newcastle?
Me and my now wife, we were kind of like, okay, we wanted to start looking at settle down, kind of what that looked like. We were just kind of talking like, you know, well, do we want to stay in Sydney? Do we want to move to Newcastle? Do we want to move somewhere else? Do we want to go to Melbourne? We kind of just weighed them all up, and like Newcastle was looking pretty good. My family was still here. Her parents had just recently moved here. Kind of we thought, you know, let's give it a go. And yeah, look, it was, as much as like you think coming back to your hometown is going to be a certain thing, like it was, like I was a stranger for a bit. Like you kind of, everything's changed, especially I've been gone at that point maybe 10, 15 years. Like it's still got friends here, but like, yeah, everywhere's different. It takes a while to kind of get back into the swing of things. But yeah, it's once we're here and kind of found our feet, like we've loved it. No looking back. Like it's, the quality of life is unreal. Like don't get me wrong, I love Sydney, I love London. Like I always have a special place in my heart, but it's like now it's like a 20-minute commute to work no matter where you live in Newcastle. It's, you know, you can go to the beach and get a park and just relax. It feels like you just have there's more hours in the day, which for the both of us being quite like career driven and work focused people is quite a good thing.
You mentioned near the top of the show of how amazing Newcastle is, and the chefs that are sort of bringing it to life from a culinary perspective. Tell us a little bit about the region and the producers and the connections that you've been making since you have returned.
Yeah, you've got like, there's so many good things up here. Like a really great example, I really got into like native produce when I was in Sydney and like was doing these dinners at the Charing Cross, you know, with like trying to really champion local ingredients, native ingredients. And it was quite, other than what you could just walk down to Bondi and kind of just pick off the coast, everything else is quite hard to come by. And a great example, I've come up here, there's these guys at Oztucker, and they have it all. They have everything. It's Davidson plums, bush tomato, like pepperberry, like and it's whatever you ask them, they're like, yeah, we got heaps of that, or we can get you that by tomorrow kind of. It's great. You've got Dylan at Newcastle Greens growing the most fantastic vegetables that like, it's really gone back to that, you know, you've never tasted cauliflower like this before. You've never tasted cabbages like this before. You've never tasted broccoli like this before. And it's like, as now we're hitting spring, like it's only getting better. Things like that. You've got the valley right here. You've got great wine coming out, and just kind of, it just feels like everyone's up here just really having a red hot go at it.
Tell us a little bit about the Lucky Hotel and, you know, how they lured you in and what you're doing there.
We had, look, I was doing some good things here. I was really happy with the work I was doing, but it was very much like, it was very kind of by the numbers jobs and, you know, just kind of lifting things up a bit. A really good friend of mine that I worked with when I first got back here, Zach Davis, he had come on board with the Lucky as the Tilly and Wills Group, kind of their area manager. I was speaking to him. He said, mate, there's this great opportunity here. He'd been around to my house many times for dinner. He knows the food that really comes out of my heart and what I like to do. He was like, mate, this is where you can be you. This is where you can really kind of open it up and go for it. And yeah, I kind of was like, nah, I'm okay. And then we'd have another catch up. He kind of gave me a bit more of an idea of what it was, and it's been unbelievable. Like, it just feels like I'll be able to put together everything I've learned along the way. We've got really nice meat on. We've got some really classic dishes from my apprenticeship. Like, we brought back the veal salt and bocca, and it's just the things that I kind of sat down and I was like, well, what do I really want to eat? What do I want to go out for? What am I going to take my wife and friends out for? Like, it's just tried to get it really, like, I guess, like, homely and approachable. The brief we've kind of gone for, like, we're going for, like, the venue itself's got a very Palm Springs feel to it, which is fantastic. A lot of flamingos. From a food point of view, it really just means whatever you want. It's like fresh, healthy, vibrant, but they're not afraid to go as kind of luxe dishes. We're pushing, and I do not by any chance claim to invented this, but we do a really nice fried chicken with the caviar, and it's like some nice creme fraiche, smoked Avruga caviar, and it's just like, but people come into the venue and see it and will order it, and they're just like, this is unreal. And it's like, it's a really nice luxe experience without having to break the bank. You can still come in and, like, you can still just have a spoon of VB and have this. You can still order a palmy if you want, but it's a nice vodka sauce. It's a nice locally smoked ham. It's just simple, fun, and there's nothing on there where you read the menu and go, I don't know what that is.
How much has your cooking changed since you've been given this sort of license just to be you rather than trying to cater for, a pub market in Sydney, for instance?
I feel like it's really, it's given me a lot more confidence, to be honest, because it's not that I really struggled with that before. So I hope that didn't sound arrogant, but like, it's just in my hands. I don't have to second guess what expectations are from other owners or other stakeholders. It's go for it, and the only thing stopping me is if it's good or not. And to be able to show these kids that, to be able to, so I say kids, I've got a really great team here, young chefs, sort of apprentices, and it's a really good opportunity to kind of show them these things that kind of, I guess, formed me into who I am.
Have there been challenges, or is there still a balancing act in getting that offering right, given that it is a pub?
Yeah, I feel like there's always going to be challenges, and it will always be a balancing act. And at the end of the day, you're never going to make every single person happy. But you do your best, you really push for it. Like, it's kind of that aim for the moon, land amongst the stars kind of thing. Like, as long as you're doing your best, and that's what I try to drill in to all the guys here. Like, as long as you're confident in it, as long as you've done your best with it, like, that's all you can really ask of people.
The last couple of years have been pretty challenging for everyone, and particularly those in the industry. What sort of impact has it had on you?
I guess it gave me a real, like, look, I don't want this to come out the wrong way. I kind of feel a bit somewhat blessed by COVID, to be honest. Like, it forced me to just stop. It forced me to stop and kind of take stock of what's going on and look around and kind of, just take a breath, refocus what I was doing. Kind of, the first one was a mad scramble. And as much as we kind of sat down, gone through the budget, it's like, okay, we're going to be all right. Like, I needed to get out and work. I was packing shelves at Coles. I was working for my father-in-law, doing some logistics stuff. I was doing anything I could to keep busy and keep working. But then towards the end, it was just that kind of like, okay, like, take a breath. It's going to be okay. And just, I guess, take that strength back, take that control back, which is good. It's kind of taught me just to block out all the noise and just, I've been really blessed with this career. It's a really great job, and you get out everything you put in, and it's just kind of reignited that and reaffirmed that. And yeah, it's given me a lot of passion to go back into it. Not that I was lacking in that, but yeah.
Well, you've had an incredible impact on many people with some incredible pubs during your time. What do you love about what you do?
Well, that's just it, the people. Like, I know I've mentioned some names through here, but the people I've met along the way, the mentors I've had, the people I've worked with, people I've worked for, it's been an incredible experience that you just kind of, these people come into your life and make a difference. And yeah, that's, God, I'm getting very romantic, aren't I? It's my old age. But it's just something I'm very grateful for. It's like, yeah, you meet all these different people and they all have an impact on your life, and you want to be able to give that back.
Well, Stephen, it's amazing what you do, and it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear just a bit of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Will do, and thank you. It's been an absolute honour myself to be on it. Thank you for the invite.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.